bigger the risk, the greater the reward. Let me say that one more time. The bigger the risk, the greater the reward. Look, being comfortable or staying comfortable is, playing it safe is going to keep you comfortable. Half stepping is just going to stain you with the biggest regret of what if. Look, don't get me wrong. Not everyone's cut out to be a boss, to be an entrepreneur, to, have all their weight on their shoulders, to keep things rolling. But if you ever had one slight idea of starting something, creating something, that's all you need to at least try to attempt. To see if that's even for you. You won't know until you try. Most people quit before they even start. They'll think of this idea, they see something, and they think that may be something they may be interested in, but there's too much noise, and they quit. They don't even start. They don't even attempt. And years go by, and they're like, damn, what if I did try it? What if I did attempt? What if I did put some time and effort into that? You have to respect the details. And what I mean by that is most people are comfortable at a W-2, at a job, regular job. You have your position, your responsibilities, and day after day you show up, things start to get repetitive. Okay, if I just show up and do the bare minimum, I'm going to get my check at the end of the week or the next 2 weeks. I know that if I get that money, if I just show up and do this, then I'll be cool. So you'll start being comfortable, and then you start living your life around this check that is going to come at the end of the week. So now everything revolves around that check. Okay, I do the bare minimum, I'm going to get this much. Now I got to adjust my groceries, whatever it may be around that check. And you start being comfortable years after years, whether you're switching positions, switching jobs, it's the same thing wherever you go. And that was me. That was me, man. And I was mad at the end of the day, when I would get paid at the first week and I still have a whole bunch of month left over and I don't got no money. I used to get paid weekly, so I would spend next week's money this week. So you know how it'd be, and then now, you never get to see any. You start digging yourself in a hole, whatever it may be, living above your means, just spending recklessly, and then you go to work, you just paying your whatever it may be. If you really want it bad enough, you're gonna find a way, right? And if you don't, all you're gonna do is find excuses. I felt trapped before. I fell victim of talking too much. Whether you're talking to your homeboys, co-workers, even family members, right? You start talking about your dreams, your goals, and how you plan on making it big time. You lay out your whole foundation like, man, I want to be the one. And they looking at you like, okay, cool. That's, we support it. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't really have dreams and goals for themselves, they start projecting limiting beliefs that they have of themselves, fears of themselves, and they project it onto you. And then at the end of the day, you go home and their feedback, their energy transfers to you, and then you're second guessing like, man, is this really something? Is this possible for someone like me? Am I capable of this? And they get in your head, and then you quit. You never try because of the influence around you, the people that you have around you. To be honest, no one really cares. No one cares what you're going through. No one cares that you plan to make 2025 your best year. No one cares how you plan to stay consistent. No one cares about how you plan to make this year your best year, right? If you really want to turn it up a notch, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. If you don't even believe in yourself, what makes you think the next person is going to want to believe in you? You got to be your biggest fan. You got to show up for you 24/7. You're always there. You got to be the one. Word to my boy, Curtis, who put me on, and he shed this light on me. You got to be able to operate in the noise. In life, day by day, there's going to be noise. Whether you go to work, there's going to be people chirping at you, your boss, bills, bill collectors, debt collectors, whatever it may be. There's noise that's going to always want to bring you down. And there's the world news, whatever's going on, there's always going to be noise. You got to be able to operate in the noise. You got to stay focused. You got to stay tunnel vision. You got to be laser focused. Like I said, if you want it bad enough, you're going to find a way. And if you don't, you're going to loaf around and throw it all off. Throw it all away. You got to be able to just figure it out. You just need to know enough to get started and learn as you go, fail forward. And once you get to a certain point that you haven't studied enough for that, you're going to be able to figure it out. No one's going to give you the blueprint on how to be successful, although success leaves clues. Don't reinvent the wheel. What I'm not telling I'm not telling you to just drop everything you're doing, quit your job, gather some homeboys, go on a world tour, try to sell out dates, sell out arenas. I'm not telling you to, just drop everything you're doing, quit your job, gather some homies, make a band and go on a world tour looking to sell out arenas. No, that's not what I'm telling you to do. But what I am telling you is, if you ever had an idea, a slight idea of doing something, do that thing you always wanted to do. Try that thing that you came across, and you knew that if you stuck with it, that could be your way out of all this mess, all this noise that's around you. That's what I'm telling you to do, is just try, attempt, figure it out. Find something that you're into that could possibly change your life. Instead of day after day loafing around, wasting time, scrolling, smoking, drinking, hanging around, instead of doing all that, focus. Find something, look into that opportunity that could possibly change your life. There's a million ways to get money, but if you don't want to get money, you're going to be loafing around and you're just going to be another one. Right now, what you're doing is just trading time for money. That's all you're doing. Instead of spending your money on useless things that aren't making you any money, after you pay your bills, after all the essentials, the groceries, the necessities that you need, after that's taken care of and the money you do have left over, invest in yourself. Invest in some skills. Invest in some mentorship. Get around some winners. Get around some people that are doing it big time. See what they're doing. Ain't no one special. No one's better than you. They're just doing something, a certain strategy. They're using their 24 hours a little bit different. Man, hang around them. I'm sure it's going to rub off on you.